funny enough, so I was in Canada shooting another show called The Porter. And a month prior, July 15th, I had a dream that I was playing Martin Luther King. And it wasn't, Martin Luther King, it wasn't like a fixed goal for me. It's not something I really thought about. I thought, how strange.
You played Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. on the Netflix movie Rustin, which is out now. But overall, how was the experience playing Dr. King and being in this film that talks about a pivotal moment in history?
Oh man, I mean, it's quite a life-changing experience, Brian. It's
Yeah,
you're playing Dr. King, who's been, characterized and played in so many different movies for so long. You're having to find a new direction to playing King. The King that I portrayed is the King that nobody knew. The King behind closed doors. Martin Luther King's an icon, and everybody knows him. But his private life was kind of kept secret until this film Rustin, and his relationship and friendship with Bayard Rustin himself, Bayard's influence on him. And it was all about trying to find a way into figuring out, what is my contribution as Martin going to be to this film? And I remember George C. Wolfe speaking to me and saying to me, well, something we need to keep in mind is that Martin was a star, but he was not yet the icon that he becomes. He's not yet the marble or statue, this idea that he becomes later. And so, my approach was to try and find a way to make him a lot more grounded, human, interactive, full of worries and woes. And, that was the kind of approach to playing Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
Yeah, absolutely. So with that, what research did you do to prepare for the role? Since, as you mentioned, there's been so many portrayals for him in so many different films and other forms of media over the years.
Yeah. I started out watching other people's versions of it, and then I stopped. I was like, all right, that's enough. And then, do you know what really helped me? I probably like three different things. One, I needed to find his voice, so I worked with this lady called Liz Himmelstein, who develops voices for different roles. And once I got found the musicality to his voice, his Southern Baptist influences, but also his Bostonian influences, and kind of melded that together and stuck with the voice and walked around and lived in the voice, it kind of grounded me. The second thing is I watched a lot of his interviews, but his interviews, not his speeches. His interviews really kind of articulate the human side of him, the laugh. He had this very fun laugh. It's very interesting laugh that immediately connects you. And then I was really thinking about what it means when it's said, judge not by the color of your skin, but by the contents of your character, and what that means beyond just the phrase or the bumper sticker. And what I found it to mean for me was to really delay judgment in when you're interacting with people, to properly take them in moment to moment. And it gave me this sense of nirvana that I was able to kind of stay in while playing King. And I'm an actor that kind of energetically leans towards whatever character I'm playing. So, yeah.
Absolutely. So how did you land the role of Dr. King? What was the process of that like?
Well, I had a dream.
Yeah. I see what you did. Yeah.
No, I funny enough, so I was in Canada shooting another show called The Porter. And a month prior, July 15th, I had a dream that I was playing Martin Luther King. And it wasn't, Martin Luther King, it wasn't like a fixed goal for me. It's not something I really thought about. I thought, how strange. And then a month later, August 17th, I got an email from my agent saying, A.V. Kaufman would like you to audition for the role of Dr. King. And I was, it's strange because at that point I was, finished on the touches of my movie Boxing Day, my directorial debut, and I was acting in something else. And so I was really frantic. I was like, how am I going to develop King in 2-3 days? And I just kind of went off instinct and impulse and auditioned for it. And then a second audition came over Zoom like this with George C. Wolfe, who is a brilliant genius and a hoot. And he kind of guided me through his version of what he would like it to be. And that's what it was.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, when it comes to Rustin, one of the storylines or one of the main storylines really is the relationship between Bayard and King. And then Coleman Domingo, who I talked to about this movie probably a year and a half ago, plays Bayard. So how is it working with him and you two telling their story?
I mean, it was funny enough. So I'm looking at the audition. I'm like, oh, Coleman's playing Bayard Rustin. Who the hell's Bayard Rustin? Right?
Yeah.
I had no idea who
Right.
Bayard Rustin.
Mm-hmm.
And Coleman and I have been working together on and off for like about 10 years. We first worked together on The Butler, Lee Daniels' The Butler, and then we worked together on one of Ava DuVernay's pilots that never got picked up. And then so this was our third venture together. And we had such a great time in 2012 doing The Butler and being in New Orleans and having fun. So it was this immediate synergy of us coming together and kind of re-establishing that friendship and that relationship. And then it was about me figuring out, okay, how does Aml best support Coleman in the undertaking of playing King? And that just meant being, incredibly prepared and incredibly moment to moment and discovering it with him and not even overly talking about it, just connecting as two brothers, two friends, and feeling out and just, dishing out different things. I mean, Coleman's such a great actor that, I'm coming with the best of what I have to offer if I'm going to be on set with him. So it was amazing. And he's fun and he leads a really, humorous, fun set.
Absolutely. I can definitely see that. And, after working on this film, is there anything, well, with Bayard, I'm pretty sure you learned a lot about him and his history, but is there anything you learned about either him or Martin Luther King or really anyone else that you didn't know before?
Do you know what the film really contextualizes for me is that how many people come together for the person to have that one moment. So the March on Washington was organized by Bayard Rustin and all the people, in the film they say the Rustinettes, but, Bayard Rustin and his team. And then Martin Luther King, who's this star, kind of is the injection of energy that it needs to be a national situation because he's the star in that moment. But I learned really about the power of the collective, I would say, and that collectively we all play our positions in presenting this moment that essentially changed the world. But without Rustin and everybody else around, that wouldn't be portrayed. Also, that a lot of the times the people that help change the world are kept in the shadows, and that was something to really kind of contextualize. And I really felt Martin's humanness. Like I said, I lean more towards the characters when I'm playing them or portraying them, and I felt Martin's humanness and his his fear of his hope at that particular time in his journey, but also that edging fear of his looming death. There's a scene between Bayard and him when they're on the phone, and he's talking about, is it Hoover or is it the Kennedys? And that fear starts to creep in about, what my life will be, and will I, what he later says years later with the mountaintop, will I get there with you, or not, and so that is a very, to really internalize that and to really look at our own mortality is a really difficult thing to process. And so I learned the weight of the individual and what he was going through at that particular time to some degree.
Of course. Of course. And earlier you mentioned that you directed and starred in the movie Boxing Day. You've also written and produced that film as well. So, when it comes to that, how was the experience of, directing, writing, and starring in this film?
I love it, bro. It's like using my left and my right arm and everything. It's me using my full bodied experience. Boxing Day is a romantic comedy that has become, somewhat of a cult classic. The Americans have really taken to it. The African American, Caribbean, African community have taken to it because it's a film that compounds the experience of the diaspora. British guy meets American girl, takes him home to his British Caribbean family who have Nigerian influences and all the rest of it. And so this melting pot of an experience. So I love directing. I love writing. Writing's a big part of my freedom. I've been doing it for a long time. And Warner Brothers was they were kind enough to give me an opportunity to direct, and Amazon, and my next two projects are kind of looming as well. My next two directing projects that I've written.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was going to ask you about you directing more feature films in the future. So you have two in the works?
Two complete.
Two complete. Okay.
Complete on a writing level, they're two complete films.
Okay.
One's a saga, a crime saga that goes across different generations, which is really fun.
Okay.
And the other one will be Boxing Day 2.
Ah, nice. Yeah. Definitely looking forward to those. So one last question for me before I let you go is, when you talk about your career, you're starring in the Netflix series A Man in Full, that has a talented cast. Not too much has been announced when it comes to the series, but what can you tell us about the show?
I would say that the role I play in that is is comparable in its undertaking to playing Dr. King. It's David E. Kelly. David E. Kelly is a phenomenal writer.
Right.
My first American TV show was Harry's Law with David E. Kelly, and so a decade on, I'm playing a lawyer, and if you know anything about David E. Kelly, his famous lawyer speeches they're huge, and so I had a great undertaking. Regina King is a phenomenal actor's director. Really guides you through what she wants from you and expects from you, and she was amazing to work with. And yeah, it's an incredibly powerful cast, and so I'm looking forward to really seeing it. I've actually not seen all of it. I've seen my bit. I've not seen all of it.
Right.
But it basically follows Jeff Daniels, this man in full, and I guess it explores this idea of being a man against the times, meaning, what happens when your way of life, your way of being is coming to an end, So it's great. I look forward to, as a fan, I look forward to watching it as well.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I'm looking forward to that as well. Well, Aml, thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it, and continued success to you.